You obliterated our $3,000 drone, you criminal lowlife. We're dragging you through court for every cent you've got, plus punitive damages and every last attorney fee. The HOA president bellowed it straight into my face, smashing the thick stack of lawsuit documents against my front door with this victorious sneer that screamed she'd already bankrupted me in her head. My only offense? Smashing their creepy surveillance drone out of the air the instant I caught it hanging motionless outside my 16-year-old daughter's bedroom window at first light. Its lens zeroed in on her while she was getting dressed, capturing her most intimate seconds on camera. For weeks that relentless buzzing machine had prowled above the entire neighborhood, floating over backyard barbecues, teenage sleepovers, Sunday family dinners, turning every house into a windowless surveillance cage. The moment I realized it was locked onto my own kid, I snatched a long-handled pole from the garage and brought that thing crashing down into the shrubbery. That satisfying crunch felt like the last scrap of justice anyone in this place still had left. Now they're gunning for my house, my bank account, my entire future. Would you sit quietly while they filmed your teenage daughter undressing? But the memory card I pulled from the wreckage contained proof of their straight-up illegal spying ring. And the massive reckoning they're about to face begins right here. Hey, I'm Rex Caldwell, 45, divorced electrician, and, according to my HOA board, the most dangerous man on the block. 6 months back I pulled into Willowbrook Estates thinking I'd finally found the perfect safe haven for me and my daughter Sage. Perfectly trimmed lawns, peaceful cul-de-sacs, the sort of place where the wildest neighborhood drama should be someone's lawn ornament facing the wrong compass direction. The realtor wouldn't shut up about community standards, should have been my first warning siren. My morning coffee came with that perfect swirl of steam and faint sawdust drifting in from the open garage where I tinkered. For once I felt genuinely hopeful about a new chapter. That hope survived exactly 18 days. Then Delilah Winters entered the picture, HOA president, licensed realtor, and living proof that even tiny slices of power can turn someone into a monster. Imagine your most insufferable, entitled neighbor. Now hand her legal control over your house and property, top it off with a razor-sharp blonde bob that looks weaponized. She appeared on my porch that Tuesday holding a measuring tape and wearing the exact fake sympathetic smile people use when they're about to ruin your day. Mr. Caldwell, your storage shed is 14 inches too close to the property line. I handed her my official city building permit. 100% compliant with every municipal regulation on the books. City rules don't override our covenants, dear, she sang, clicking her pen like she was tallying points in a game only she understood. $500 fine. Due tomorrow. Then the barrage started. Mailbox painted the wrong shade of charcoal, $200. Holiday lights left up one day past the deadline, $150. Sage's basketball hoop generating excessive noise at 3 p.m. On a Saturday, $300. Every time Delilah left, the cloying cloud of her floral perfume lingered like toxic gas. She's singling you out, whispered Mrs. Finley, my sweet 72-year-old next-door neighbor. Nobody else gets hammered this badly. That evening I cracked open the HOA covenant binder, 50 pages of deliberately confusing legalese engineered to let them fine you for existing. All structures and landscaping must conform to prevailing community aesthetic values. Translation: we reserve the right to invent new violations whenever we feel like it. But here's the advantage of being an electrician for 20 years, I document obsessively. Every circuit, every code violation, every potential hazard. So I started snapping time-stamped photos of every citation notice, every inspection visit, every time Delilah showed up waving her measuring tools like a weapon. Then I leveled up. I began secretly recording every single one of her little visits. Started with audio only, then switched to video once I realized she never checked whether my phone was pointed at her. Call it occupational instinct, but the whole setup reeked of something rotten. Evening walks became tense, gravel crunching under my boots while I watched neighbors duck inside the second they spotted Delilah's gleaming white Mercedes cruising the streets like a predator shark. Then she unveiled her crown jewel, enhanced neighborhood security protocol. At the monthly HOA meeting she practically glowed while describing their shiny new purchase. We're implementing comprehensive property compliance monitoring via state-of-the-art aerial surveillance technology. Translation: we spent your dues on a drone so we can spy on you from above. Garrett Bloom, vice president and eternal clipboard enthusiast, bobbed his head like this was the most reasonable thing in the world. Maxine Torres furiously took minutes like she was building a future prosecution file. Aerial monitoring will allow swift identification of covenant infractions, Delilah declared. I quietly pulled my phone out under the table and started recording. If they wanted to play Orwell, I'd archive every syllable. Any questions from the floor? She asked sweetly. My hand went up. What's your position on resident privacy? Specifically, recording people through their bedroom windows? Her smile could have frosted the gates of hell. All surveillance is conducted under full authority of the HOA declaration. Community standards take precedence over personal privacy preferences. The room fell into stunned silence. That was the exact moment I understood this wasn't petty rule enforcement anymore. This was open warfare. I drove straight home and installed my first high-res outdoor security camera that same night. Not only for protection, for ironclad evidence. If Delilah was determined to turn our street into a gated police state, I was going to make damn sure every rights violation got captured crystal clear. What I didn't realize was that in less than 14 days their drone would be parked outside my daughter's window at dawn, and I'd be reaching for something far more decisive than a camera lens. The drone made its debut on a quiet Monday morning, circling like a vulture that smelled fresh blood. I was mid-sip of coffee when that furious insect whine sliced through the calm. Peering through the kitchen window, I watched this glossy white quadcopter hovering over my backyard fence line. Its gimbal-mounted camera slowly panning like a cold robotic eye searching for anything to punish. Sage cracked her bedroom window. "Dad, what's that awful sound?" "Our friendly new neighborhood overseer," I muttered, already grabbing my phone. "Let's see how they like being watched." It lazily orbited for a solid 15 minutes before drifting off to harass the Johnsons next door. Top-shelf professional rig, easily $3,000 of pure privacy invasion, paid for with everyone's mandatory HOA fees. My electrician wiring kicked in. I remembered reading FAA regulations somewhere. Turns out operating drones over private residences for continuous surveillance without explicit consent isn't just invasive, it's a federal violation carrying heavy fines and potential criminal charges. Perfect. My own HOA was breaking federal aviation law using money I helped pay. That night I dug into the official board meeting minutes. Security enhancement allocation, $5,000 unanimously approved. No resident vote, of course. $3,000 allocated for DJI Phantom 4 Pro acquisition. Remainder designated for operational support. Translation: pocket change for Garrett's endless gas-guzzling patrols in his oversized pickup. Tuesday delivered our first face-to-face clash. Sage was outside studying, stretched out on her favorite blanket in shorts and a tank top, when the drone dropped down like a mechanical pervert, hovering directly overhead so close she could see her own reflection glinting off the lens. "Dad!" She sprinted inside. I stormed out to find Garrett standing on the sidewalk, controller clutched in his damp hands, smirking like he'd busted a cartel. "Get that thing the hell away from my daughter." "Public navigable airspace, pal." He tapped his sacred clipboard. "Violation in progress." "What violation?" Section 4. 7B mandates approved outdoor furniture for all leisure activities. Blanket on grass equals unpermitted surface covering. The rotors kept whining overhead. I hit record on my phone. If they were going to fabricate rules on the spot, I was going to preserve every absurd second on video. That evening I submitted a formal written complaint. Rejection email arrived faster than next-day shipping. Aerial compliance monitoring is fully authorized under current covenants. I uploaded our story, complete with video clips, to the neighborhood Facebook page. 47 reactions, 23 comments, and suddenly my inbox was flooded with terrified private messages from other residents. "Mrs. Finley, it terrified my grandkids. They thought it was some kind of bird of prey hunting them." The Millers, "it shadows our dog every time he goes out. Buddy refuses to leave the porch now." Sarah Martinez, "it hovered outside my toddler's nursery window during nap time. I almost called the police." But Delilah's true power move came next, the fine tsunami. Lawn height exceeds maximum 3.2 inches. Mine measured exactly 3 inches with a ruler. Failure to correct within 24 hours, $50 per day accumulating. My lawyer friend Jake laughed until I sent him the full folder. "This is textbook targeted harassment, Rex. Keep filming everything. But whatever you do, don't hand them any real ammo." I was already miles ahead, timestamping every drone pass, screenshotting every invented citation, assembling a binder that would impress any DA. The smell of diesel from Garrett's jacked-up truck became my new 6 a.m. wake-up call, parked across from my driveway like he was conducting his own surveillance op. Friday evening I'm flipping burgers for Sage and her best friend Emma when the drone swoops in, dropping to eye level just 15 feet away, camera zooming tight on the girls' faces while they try to eat in peace. "Mr. Caldwell," Emma whispers, "why is that thing staring at us?" I marched over to where Garrett stood grinning behind his controller. "You're recording minors without parental consent. That's felony territory where I come from. Routine community compliance sweep." Checking for unauthorized assembly violation. It's my daughter and one friend eating cheeseburgers. Section 2. 4C restricts outdoor gatherings to immediate family members unless pre-approved permit filed at least 72 hours prior. The smell of charcoal smoke mixed with the rage boiling in my chest. These people weren't enforcing rules anymore. They were inventing crimes to justify their existence. That's when I spotted the pattern. Garrett wasn't flying randomly. He followed a deliberate rotation, lingering longest over houses with teenage girls. This wasn't random harassment. This was predatory, targeted surveillance focused on kids. I raised my phone and started filming him filming us, instant evidence loop. Smile for the camera, Garrett. You're the star of my official harassment compilation now. His grip on the controller slipped for a second. You can't record me. Public sidewalk, buddy. Same rules you love throwing in my face. That night Sage asked quietly if we could just move. I feel watched every second, Dad. It makes my skin crawl. I kissed her forehead and made a promise. No more creepy drones, baby girl. Daddy's about to flip this whole nightmare upside down. Time to upgrade my countermeasures to match, and then exceed theirs. The drone terror escalated into full-blown obsession the following week. That's when I realized we'd left petty neighborhood nonsense far behind and entered territory that would make even the most paranoid surveillance state take notes. Monday morning, that mechanical predator jammed its camera right up against our kitchen window while we were eating breakfast, tracking every spoonful Sage took like she was some rare animal on exhibit. Dad, please make it go away, she whispered, shielding her face with both hands. I snatched my phone and kept building what I'd started calling my growing federal case folder. Out on the street, Garrett stood there clutching his controller like he was filming the creepiest wildlife special ever made. You're literally recording a 16-year-old eating cereal, you sick freak. Kitchen area compliance inspection, he answered, deadpan. Incorrect seated posture breaches health and safety guidelines. I never stopped recording. You actually just said breakfast posture protocols out loud? The drone eased back exactly 6 inches. Crisis averted, apparently. In Garrett's warped logic, Tuesday leveled up to full school bus pursuit. From my workshop window, I watched the drone shadow Sage all the way to her stop, hovering low over her and 3 little kids like a buzzard zeroing in on lunch. The kindergartners burst into tears. My phone lit up instantly. Dad, it's chasing me again. The little ones think it's going to attack them. I jumped in the truck, camera rolling the whole way, capturing every second. Garrett already had his clipboard primed. Bus stop queuing formation infraction. Minors required to observe mandated safety intervals. The irony hit like a slap. I was now the one documenting the documenters, filming their slide straight into unhinged territory. That night Mrs. Finley showed up at my door, hands shaking, clutching printouts from her Ring camera. Her 6-year-old granddaughter had been chalking hopscotch squares when the drone dove in like a hawk, lens zooming tight on the terrified little face. This is supposed to be America, she said, voice cracking with her old country accent. Not some surveillance dictatorship. I'd been spending lunch breaks buried in legal research. Turns out courts really don't like grown adults using drones to systematically stalk and record children. Phrases like reasonable expectation of privacy, criminal stalking, and invasion of privacy kept popping up. Lawyers speak for these clowns are about to get obliterated. Wednesday's emergency HOA meeting played out like dystopian performance art. Enhanced Security Initiative expansion, Delilah proclaimed, as if announcing free community yoga classes. Residents implicitly consent to waive individual privacy expectations in favor of comprehensive compliance oversight. She pushed a violation notice my way. Interference penalty, $1,000. I rose slowly, phone capturing every syllable. You can't sign away constitutional rights with an HOA fine sheet, Delilah. Her smile could have iced over the sun. Then perhaps you'd be happier in a community more aligned with your disregard for established standards. That wording set off every internal siren. This wasn't mere bullying anymore. It felt like a veiled threat with real consequences behind it. Thursday's deep dive into public records uncovered the bombshell. Delilah wasn't just enforcing rules, she was running a full-blown real estate grift masked as zealous HOA governance. 3 families in the last 18 months had lost their homes to foreclosure over runaway fines. Every single property snapped up at sheriff's auction by Delilah Winters Realty. Then flipped at 40% profit once the violations magically cleared. Same LLC every time. Mrs. Finley slid her own foreclosure warning across my kitchen table. $3,400 for unauthorized garden gnome directional misalignment, and non-compliant bird feeder height variants. She was literally weaponizing paperwork to steal houses from her own neighbors. Friday night sleepover broke whatever restraint I had left. Sage was hosting Emma's birthday with 2 other girls when blood-curdling screams ripped through the house from upstairs. I took the stairs 3 at a time and burst into Sage's room to find 3 terrified teenagers clustered together, pointing at the window in pure panic. The drone was stationed right outside the second-floor bedroom glass, lens mashed against the pane, filming while the girls were changing into pajamas. Down in the street below, Garrett stood steady with his controller, wearing the most disgusting grin I've ever seen on a human face. I was out the door before my brain could catch up. "You were recording teenage girls undressing, you disgusting creep." "Unauthorized overnight visitor verification," he replied with eerie calm. "Visual confirmation necessary for accurate violation documentation." The diesel stink from his monster truck blended with the coppery taste of rage flooding my throat. My hands trembled as I kept filming his every word, stacking evidence that would either bury them or bury me. That same night Sage looked at me with red-rimmed eyes and said the words that shattered something deep inside. "I'm never inviting friends over again, Dad. I can't make them go through this embarrassment." Staring at my daughter's tear-streaked cheeks, I felt the final strand of patience snap like an over-tightened cable. These people had just crossed a red line no one comes back from. Time to pull out the paintball marker and deliver a lesson in real-world consequences. Sunday morning, 6:30 a.m. The noise that jolted me awake wasn't the coffee maker. It was that familiar furious buzz right outside Sage's second-story window. I parted the blinds and there it was, hovering 3 feet from the glass like a dedicated stalker, camera fixed on her room while she changed for her morning jog. That was the final straw. Full nuclear protocol engaged. I yanked on jeans and headed to the garage where my old Tipman paintball gun had been gathering dust on the wall like a relic waiting for its comeback story. 20 years since pickup games with the electrician crew, back when my toughest decision was light beer or IPA. I loaded it with high-impact rounds, stepped into the backyard with the cold clarity of a man who'd reached his absolute limit. Phone already recording. If this ended me, it was going to end on video. The drone floated there, motionless, peering through the glass at my daughter. Sage spotted it, screamed, and dove behind her dresser like she was under sniper fire. I shouldered the marker, 25 years of precise conduit work steadying my hands. 30 feet away, it sat like the most overpriced skeet target ever built. "Say cheese," I muttered, and pulled the trigger. Thwack! Dead center hit. Bright orange paint splattered across the gimbal in a perfect starburst. The drone spiraled wildly, rotors screaming in metallic agony before it plummeted into my rose bushes with the sweetest crash I'd ever heard. Glorious, righteous destruction. Garrett came sprinting from the sidewalk like his life depended on it. "You just destroyed association property. $3,000 in damages." "You were filming my daughter getting dressed through her bedroom window," I shot back, phone still rolling his meltdown. "That's called being a child predator." Community compliance monitoring in navigable airspace. I pointed at the smoking wreckage now decorated with orange paint and rose thorns like battle scars. "Your monitoring program has been officially terminated." Neighbors were pouring out of houses up and down the block. Mrs. Finley shot me a discreet but unmistakable thumbs up from her porch. The Johnson kid was already filming the whole scene like it was premium YouTube content. "I'm calling the police," Garrett stammered, fumbling for his phone. "Be my guest. I'll tell them why you were stalking kids while you explain your $3,000 voyeurism toy." But here's where 20 years as an electrician gave me the ultimate edge. While Garrett was busy having a public meltdown, I reached the crash site first. The body was cracked open, but that pristine microSD card slot gleamed like treasure. I popped the card out and slipped it into my pocket before he even noticed. "That's evidence," he shrieked. "Damn right it is," I said. "Evidence of every illegal recording you've been doing. Can't wait to hand it over to the proper authorities." His face drained to the color of printer paper. "You can't just take that." "Already did. Consider it a contribution to my legal defense war chest." The lawsuit papers arrived 48 hours later via a process server who looked like he'd drawn the short straw. Delilah's brother-in-law's firm was demanding $3,000 in property damage, $10,000 in punitive damages, plus enough legal fees to bankroll their next Caribbean getaway. They'd also slapped a restraining order on me, alleging I posed an imminent violent threat to board members. Hearing set for Friday, perfect timing to turn the neighborhood into a live courtroom drama. Thursday night's emergency HOA meeting had exactly one item: addressing acts of aggression toward elected board officials, translation, public character assassination, HOA edition. Tuesday evening in my workshop, I finally slotted that stolen memory card into my laptop. Garrett's frantic reaction had already tipped me off. This wasn't just routine footage. The early files were predictable petty crap. My yard, neighbors' pools, Mrs. Finley's flower beds. Annoying, but standard. But as I scrolled deeper into 43 video clips covering 6 straight weeks, my gut twisted. This wasn't random snooping. This was deliberate, obsessive targeting, laser-focused on kids' bedrooms, bathroom windows, private family moments. Clip after clip of blatant illegal recordings, timestamps showing clear patterns of premeditated stalking. Hours of footage that would make any district attorney's mouth water. I hadn't merely taken out a drone. I'd unwittingly exposed a full-scale criminal surveillance racket that belonged on the nightly news headlines. Wednesday night, I dialed Jake immediately. "Remember when you told me not to do anything reckless?" "Oh God, Rex. What the hell did you do now?" "I shot their spy drone down with a paintball gun." "But Jake, what's on that memory card flips this entire nightmare upside down."
"We need to meet tonight. Bring your laptop."
By Thursday morning, the entire dynamic had reversed. I was no longer the desperate homeowner staring down financial ruin. I was holding dynamite-grade evidence capable of ending careers, triggering federal probes, and dismantling their little suburban Gestapo. Time to flip the script on these self-appointed surveillance overlords. Jake showed up at my place that Wednesday evening, laptop under his arm, wearing the look of a lawyer who just realized his buddy had kicked over hornet's nest the size of Texas. "Let me see it," he said, dropping into a kitchen chair like he was bracing for impact. I inserted the memory card into his machine and guided him through the digital inferno. 43 video files spanning 6 relentless weeks of targeted surveillance, but not in the way anyone would expect. The opening clip seemed ordinary enough, sweeping aerial views of the neighborhood. Jake's eyebrows kept climbing with every advancing timestamp. "Rex, this thing was flying daily, sometimes multiple sorties a day."
"Keep going."
File 12 revealed the chilling methodology. The drone wasn't conducting random patrols. It was running precision reconnaissance on select households, kids' bedroom windows, bathroom routines, times when parents were absent and teenagers were home alone. "Holy hell," Jake muttered under his breath. "This crosses into felony stalking territory with a hefty FAA felony cherry on top." But the stomach-turning bombshell landed in File 27. Crystal clear footage of Delilah herself slipping into my backyard while Sage and I were away at her school recital. She carefully positioned garden ornaments that violated multiple covenants, snapped photos with her phone for documentation, then removed them before leaving. "She's fabricating violations on purpose," I said quietly. "Watch the pattern repeat." File after file exposed the same playbook across 7 separate properties. Delilah trespassing under cover of darkness, planting incriminating items, capturing proof, then issuing violation notices the very next morning. Mrs. Finley's unauthorized garden gnome that mysteriously appeared and vanished overnight. The Millers' improperly placed trash bin that materialized while they were out of town. Jake was scribbling notes at lightning speed. This is textbook organized fraud. She's weaponizing HOA enforcement powers to generate fake infractions, then cashing in on the penalties. It gets darker. I pulled up the county property records on my second screen. 3 families had lost their homes to foreclosure in the past 18 months over escalating HOA fines. Guess who scooped every single one up at sheriff's auction? Jake's color drained. Delilah Winters Realty. And she flipped each one within months at 40% markup, once the violations conveniently disappeared. We burned through 2 solid hours cross-checking drone timestamps against HOA citation dates. The correlation was ironclad. Every major fine was preceded by clear video evidence of Delilah or Garrett staging the violation or twisting innocent behavior into punishable offenses. Rex, forget HOA overreach. This is a structured criminal enterprise hiding behind neighborhood covenants to commit real estate fraud. The final clips left us both nauseated. Interior shots through bathroom windows, children's bedrooms, intimate family moments, all captured with high-powered telephoto lenses that pierced glass from extreme distances. Mail theft, criminal trespass, wire fraud, invasion of privacy, stalking minors, Jake listed, counting off on his fingers. And if any of this crossed state lines or used interstate commerce, hello, RICO predicate acts. I leaned back, the refrigerator's hum the only sound in the room as the full scale sank in. So when I blasted their drone out of the sky, you didn't just stop the harassment. You accidentally detonated a multi-year conspiracy that's likely ruined dozens of families. Jake snapped his laptop shut. You're not the defendant anymore, Rex. You're the star witness in what's about to explode into a federal indictment. Silence settled heavy between us. 6 months earlier I'd moved here chasing quiet suburban peace for me and Sage. Now I was in possession of evidence that could lock 3 people away in federal prison for years. What's our next move? Jake flashed his first real grin of the night. Now we phone the FBI and let your petty HOA drama morph into their worst career nightmare. He paused at the door on his way out. One last thing, that emergency meeting tomorrow night?
Be there.
Let them keep talking while we finalize the evidence binder that's going to bury them alive. After he left, I sat alone in the workshop staring at that tiny memory card. So small, yet packed with enough explosive truth to level an empire. Tomorrow evening Delilah would stride to the front of the room, likely crowing about her lawsuit, her restraining order, convinced she'd finally crushed the defiant electrician. She had zero clue I was about to transform her prized surveillance network into the centerpiece of her federal criminal indictment. Time to orchestrate the most delicious public reckoning HOA history had ever seen. Thursday morning Jake rang with news that turned my coffee into pure adrenaline. I've got you connected with Rebecca Martinez, Civil Rights Division. She lives for privacy violation and government abuse cases. When I laid out your story, she actually laughed out loud.
Laughed. Yeah.
Said it's the cleanest, most egregious federal slam dunk she's seen in 5 years. Organized aerial surveillance, mail theft, systematic fraud. These idiots basically wrote a how-to manual for breaking every relevant statute at once. Rebecca arrived that afternoon hauling 3 bulging briefcases and wearing the predatory smile of a prosecutor handed a gift-wrapped conviction. She arrayed documents across my kitchen table like a war room strategist. Mr. Caldwell, what you've compiled here violates roughly 15 separate federal statutes. She tapped the printed stills from the drone videos. Non-consensual video surveillance of private residences breaches Fourth Amendment protections. When minors are the primary targets, the sentencing guidelines turn downright punitive. I'd been self-educating on this for weeks, but hearing a federal attorney confirm it made every hour of late-night research feel like victory. My electrician instincts had always preached one gospel: thorough documentation defeats everything. So that afternoon I assembled the most airtight evidence dossier any HOA tyrant ever faced. I upgraded my own security grid, additional motion-triggered cameras covering blind spots, all cloud-synced, encrypted, and tamper-resistant. If they tried payback, every move would be captured in forensic detail. The perk of being an electrician? I know exactly how to rig surveillance that's actually bulletproof: overlapping fields of view, redundant power sources, multiple recording streams. They wanted to play Big Brother. I demonstrate how real professionals run an op. My neighbor alliance had evolved into a full-fledged counterintelligence network. Mrs. Finley fed me her ring footage. The Johnsons contributed driveway cam angles. Sarah Martinez uploaded her whole home system archive. We've built a neighborhood-wide surveillance net tracking every board member's move, Mrs. Finley said, eyes wide as we reviewed the merged timeline on my laptop. This is more evidence than most felony trials dream of. Rebecca scanned our towering stack and let out a low whistle. 40 hours of unlawful drone video, timestamped trespassing, fabricated violations, clear financial fraud trails, targeted harassment of minors. This case prosecutes itself. But the crown jewel of our plan was the deliberate lure. I intentionally created a tiny technical covenant breach, positioned a small garden gnome precisely 14 inches from my property line instead of the required 15. If they bite and plant more evidence to justify a fine, I told Rebecca, we'll catch them committing fresh federal felonies live on camera.
She smirked.
Entrapment only applies to government actors. Private citizens gathering proof of crimes? That's just being an exemplary witness. Thursday evening I set the final trap elements: pro-grade night vision cameras angled to nail any after-dark trespass, motion sensors wired to instant cloud uploads and immediate phone alerts. Thanks to Rebecca's press connections, Channel 7's investigative team was now coincidentally planning to attend the meeting, following up on community governance transparency issues. Rex, Rebecca said as she packed her cases, by tomorrow morning your HOA board will regret ever buying that first drone. Federal counts: mail theft, privacy invasion, organized fraud, conspiracy. We're talking double-digit years in federal lockup. That evening I walked every room, double-checking cameras and backups. Fresh coffee aroma mingled with the deep satisfaction of knowing justice was 12 short hours from delivery. Sage sat with me while we proofed the final evidence folder. Dad, you basically turned into a detective. When bullies push too far, kiddo, the smartest counterpunch is building a case so airtight their lawyers can't even breathe.
The setup was flawless.
Tomorrow night Delilah would take the podium, probably smirking about her restraining order and impending lawsuit, fully convinced she'd crushed the rebellious electrician who refused to bow. She had no inkling I was seconds away from unleashing federal-grade evidence that would convert her HOA kingdom into a national news criminal prosecution. Time to watch some supremely arrogant people discover what real consequences feel like. Friday morning delivered the first cracks in Delilah's armor. While mounting my last camera, I caught Garrett's truck cruising past my house for the third time before 8 a.m. Through the kitchen window I watched him pull over across the street, sit there for 20 solid minutes, gesturing wildly on his phone like a man watching his entire world implode. My phone vibrated, text from Mrs. Finley. They held an emergency board meeting last night. Raised voices echoed through the community center walls like a cornered animal thrashing. The desperate countermeasures kicked off immediately. At 10 a.m. sharp, a process server knocked with a thick packet trying to rewrite the HOA covenants retroactively. Brand new language that would magically retro-legalize their entire surveillance scheme and hand them even broader enhanced security monitoring powers. The legal version of robbing a bank, then rushing to pass a law declaring bank robbery retroactively permissible once you're caught red-handed. Rebecca burst out laughing when I texted her snapshots of the documents. Panic makes smart people do monumentally stupid things, Rex. They just handed us another smoking gun of criminal consciousness. But the real sign of unraveling arrived that afternoon when my work van got viciously keyed right in my own driveway. Long, deliberate gouges carved down both sides, spelling out "move away" in letters that must have taken someone the better part of an hour to etch. I photographed every inch with my phone, then pulled up the security feeds. Razor-sharp nighttime footage of Garrett creeping around my van at 2:47 a.m., using what looked like an ordinary house key to methodically ruin the paint like a petty teenager with a grudge. Amateur night at the revenge rodeo, I muttered, archiving the clip straight into the master evidence folder. The smear campaign against my electrical contracting business launched the very next morning. Anonymous calls flooded the office line accusing me of being unhinged, hostile to clients, and a safety hazard on residential job sites. My boss rang me, sounding more puzzled than worried. "Rex, I've fielded 3 separate complaints claiming you're some kind of loose cannon. I told them they've got the wrong guy, you're the steadiest, most professional tech I've got on payroll." But the gut punch came Tuesday afternoon. Child Protective Services appeared on my doorstep following an anonymous tip alleging I was an unstable, violence-prone parent who left dangerous weapons within easy reach of minors. The social worker was polite but methodical, walking through the house while I laid out the full HOA harassment saga. She inspected the paintball marker, locked securely in its case, watched the drone stalking footage, and quickly pieced together that she'd been sicked on me by vindictive neighbors weaponizing the system. "Mr. Caldwell, this report reeks of retaliation. We encounter it in ugly custody battles, but HOA vendettas? That's a fresh low." She departed with paperwork that would almost certainly trigger its own probe into the false accuser. At the same time, Sage was absorbing the fallout at school. Kids whose parents sat on the HOA board started whispering that her dad was a crazy terrorist running some kind of neighborhood insurgency. She walked in Tuesday afternoon in tears, asking if we could just pack up and leave for somewhere normal. "Dad, Emma's mom won't let her come over anymore. She says you're dangerous." I held my daughter tight while she sobbed against my shoulder, feeling white-hot acid rage eat through my chest. These people weren't content with ruining me, they were deliberately shredding my kids' childhood friendships with manufactured lies. But Wednesday night delivered the knockout punch I'd been waiting for. The gnome bait trap sprang exactly as planned. That deliberately misplaced garden gnome, 14 inches from the line instead of the required 15, triggered their evidence-planting instinct like Pavlov's bell. Motion-activated cameras captured Garrett vaulting my fence at 2:15 a.m., hauling in a whole arsenal of planted violations, unauthorized decorative stakes, trash cans in the wrong shade of gray, even a small promotional yard sign he'd obviously lifted from someone else's property. The masterpiece? He spent 40 full minutes meticulously arranging and photographing every item with his phone, narrating under his breath the entire time. My high-sensitivity audio picked up pure gold. "This'll shut that troublemaker up for good." And nobody wins against the HOA. Nobody. The official violation notice landed in my mailbox Thursday morning, citing every single planted item, placed just 12 hours earlier. The timestamps on my footage lined up flawlessly with his own incriminating photos. I speed-dialed Rebecca. "We've got them on high-definition video committing fresh federal felonies, complete with audio confessions. Rex, this is prosecutorial catnip. Trespass, evidence fabrication, fraud, conspiracy. They just gift-wrapped their own indictment with a bow on top." Thursday evening brought Delilah's last-ditch Hail Mary. She appeared on my porch with what she clearly believed was her ace in the hole. $5,000 to make this disappear quietly, she offered, her trademark smugness replaced by something that looked dangerously close to genuine fear. Drop your complaints, sign an NDA, and we pretend none of this happened. I kept my voice recorder app running silently the whole visit. So you're proposing I accept cash to bury evidence of federal crimes? We may have been overly enthusiastic with our compliance monitoring, she said carefully. But it's nothing neighbors can't settle privately. You mean the monitoring that involved zooming in on children changing clothes through bedroom windows?
Her face drained of color.
Look, Rex, you don't want to escalate this. We have resources, connections, entire legal departments. And I have 40 hours of your illegal surveillance footage currently under active review by federal prosecutors. She turned and left without another syllable, but the sour stink of her panic clung to my doorway like bargain bin perfume. Tomorrow night's HOA meeting was shaping up to be legendary. Saturday morning, Delilah committed her terminal error. She showed up at my door at 8 a.m. Trying one last time to buy silence, unaware I'd started recording every single encounter with these people months ago. This visit was about to become Exhibit A in a textbook bribery charge. Rex, we need to speak privately. She glanced over her shoulder like she expected drones of her own circling overhead. The irony was almost poetic.
Of course, Delilah. Come inside.
I guided her to the kitchen, angling so my hidden camera had a perfect view of her face. She dropped into a chair like her legs had given out, usual poise shattered. This situation has spiraled completely out of control, she started. Perhaps we were a touch too zealous with our oversight measures. I let her ramble while the app captured every syllable. You're a practical man, Rex. You get how property values depend on strict enforcement of community standards. Sometimes that demands enhanced oversight.
Enhanced oversight, I echoed.
Is that the new euphemism for stalking teenagers? Her mask slipped a fraction. We never meant, the surveillance was purely for compliance verification. Compliance verification that included recording my daughter undressing. That was an unfortunate overreach on Garrett's part. I leaned back, giving her rope. So what's the endgame here, Delilah? Complete resolution. We withdraw every lawsuit, erase every fine, and cut you a $5,000 goodwill check. She pushed a plain envelope across the table. All it takes is your signature on a simple non-disclosure agreement, and returning that memory card. There it was, attempted bribery on crystal clear audio. You're asking me to suppress evidence of federal felonies for $5,000?
It's not suppression, she rushed.
It's settling a private neighborhood matter without dragging in outsiders. Outsiders like the FBI agents already reviewing your drone footage. Her expression went blank. You already turned it over. Delilah, did you honestly believe I'd leave video of children being stalked sitting in my junk drawer? She shot up, chair screeching across the tile like fingernails on slate. You have no idea who you're crossing, Rex. We have influence, resources, and I have your crimes in federal custody. The following days unleashed a wave of escalating desperation that would have been darkly funny if it hadn't targeted my family. Sunday night someone attempted a break-in while Sage and I were at her school performance. The security system blared alerts to my phone and auto-uploaded crystal-clear footage to encrypted cloud storage. Hooded figure, but the distinctive lumbering walk and broad shoulders screamed Garrett. Nothing taken, pure terror tactic, a message that they could slip inside anytime they pleased. Monday unleashed a blitz of character assassination. Anonymous letters stuffed into neighbors' mailboxes branded me a volatile menace with violent propensities who endangered the entire community. The notes urged everyone to back my forcible removal through any legal channel available. Tuesday the retaliation spread to my allies. Mrs. Finley received an accelerated foreclosure demand. Pay every accumulated fine immediately or face sheriff's sale in 30 days. The Johnsons got slapped with 17 brand new violations that had mysteriously materialized overnight. Sarah Martinez discovered all 4 tires on her car slashed in the school pickup line. But Wednesday handed us the final nail. My cameras nailed Maxine Torres red-handed creeping through my backyard at 3 a.m. attempting to plant what looked like drug paraphernalia right beside my workshop. She clearly intended to discover it during a surprise HOA inspection, then summon police to bust me for imaginary narcotics activity. The beauty of being an electrician? I understand motion sensors better than most people understand breathing. The second she crossed my property line, infrared floods lit the yard like daylight, capturing every move in forensic detail. She spent 20 painstaking minutes positioning small plastic baggies and what appeared to be a pocket digital scale, snapping photos with her phone the entire time. But the second she tried to bolt, my motion-activated floodlights slammed on like prison yard spotlights catching an escapee. The footage of Maxine sprinting across my backyard in full deer in headlights panic, dropping baggies and scale like hot potatoes as she fled, would have swept comedy awards if it weren't raw documentation of felony evidence tampering in progress. Thursday morning Rebecca rang with a call that turned my whole week into pure adrenaline. Rex, the FBI has formally opened an investigation. They've dubbed it Operation Neighborhood Watch. Your HOA nightmare just jumped to federal task force priority level. But the last gasp of their crumbling empire hit Thursday evening. Garrett began tailing Sage home from school, keeping precisely the legal buffer to dodge the restraining order while making damn sure she felt eyes on her back every step. My daughter called me sobbing from the sidewalk.
Dad, he's following me again.
That same black truck that's always parked across from our house. That night I sat in the workshop methodically cleaning my old paintball marker, while replaying months of security footage showing 3 people who'd turned our lives into a surveillance horror show. Tomorrow's HOA meeting wasn't going to be another petty community forum. It was about to become the live execution of public arrest warrants.
Friday evening, 7 p.m.
The community center overflowed with 87 residents plus 3 board members blissfully unaware their criminal house of cards was seconds from collapsing under national TV lights. I arrived early with Rebecca and 3 plainclothes federal agents blending seamlessly into the crowd like regular neighbors. Channel 7's investigative reporter had her camera already rolling in the back row, expecting a routine governance piece, about to land the biggest local to national story of her career. Delilah banged the gavel with her signature authoritarian flair, standing at the podium like a queen addressing peasants instead of the victims she'd terrorized for months. Tonight we confront the violence and intimidation our board has suffered at the hands of one disruptive resident, she declared, voice dripping with that special venom saved for public shamings. Garrett flanked her with a thick binder I assumed held cherry-picked drone clips and fabricated proof. Maxine gripped her notebook like a life raft, likely stuffed with the financial ledgers she believed would never see daylight. Mr. Rex Caldwell has repeatedly vandalized association property, breached restraining orders, and fostered a hostile atmosphere that endangers our entire community, Delilah pressed on, building to her dramatic crescendo. Several neighbors shifted in their seats, uncomfortable. Mrs. Finley shot me a subtle thumbs up from row 3. The Johnsons looked like they were witnessing a slow-motion train wreck. The board has therefore voted to seek the fullest possible legal remedies, including substantial monetary damages that will teach Mr. Caldwell the true cost of attacking community authority. She swept her hand toward me with exaggerated smugness. Mr. Caldwell, care to justify your terrorist behavior to your fellow residents? I rose deliberately, laptop bag slung over my shoulder, feeling 87 sets of eyes lock onto me. The federal agents casually repositioned near the doors, just ordinary folks at a neighborhood meeting, except they were ready to cuff people. Actually, Delilah, I'd love to show everyone some real footage. I strode to the front, plugged my laptop into the projector, and gave the woman who'd spent half a year dismantling my family's piece a calm, lethal smile. I think the community deserves to see exactly what security monitoring our HOA board has really been running. The first clip filled the big screen, razor-sharp nighttime video of Garrett scaling my fence at 2:47 a.m., planting violation props while muttering threats under his breath. The room fell into stunned silence. This is Garrett Bloom trespassing on private property to fabricate HOA citations, I stated clearly. Notice the timestamp, 12 hours before I received the official notice for the exact items he's staging. Ladies and gentlemen, I continued as murmurs turned to gasps, this is merely one snippet from 43 hours of illegal drone surveillance your board has been conducting. Children's bedrooms, family bathrooms, private backyard conversations, all recorded without consent. I advanced to the money slide, financial spreadsheets showing Delilah's realty company snapping up every foreclosed property in the neighborhood, then flipping them at massive markups after the violations mysteriously vanished. And here's proof that Mrs. Winters has been engineering fake infractions to drive families into foreclosure, then buying those homes through her own company for profit. That was the cue. The federal agents rose in unison.
FBI.
We have active arrest warrants for Delilah Winters, Garrett Bloom, and Maxine Torres. The room detonated into pandemonium. Delilah's face went from triumphant to ashen in under 5 seconds. Garrett lunged for the side door but got flattened by the Johnsons' teenage son, varsity linebacker, who'd been waiting for his moment.
This is fabricated. He's the criminal here.
Delilah shrieked as cuffs snapped around her wrists. I stepped to the microphone while agents recited Miranda rights. The illegal surveillance ends tonight. The manufactured violations end tonight. The terrorizing of children and families in this neighborhood ends tonight. I raised the tiny memory card that had ignited the whole firestorm. Sometimes you have to record a surveillance state to dismantle it. The entire room surged to its feet in applause as 3 federal agents marched 3 former HOA tyrants toward the rear exit. Channel 7's reporter captured every second, already scripting the story that would dominate morning news nationwide. As the handcuffed trio vanished through the doors, I faced the crowd one last time. This community center is officially drone-free, and it's staying that way. 6 months later, I'm back in the same room, watching neighbors debate playground slides and swing sets instead of spy drones and compliance fines. Federal sentencing came down fast and hard. Delilah drew 4 years in prison plus $200,000 in victim restitution. Garrett got 3 years and permanently lost his security credentials. Maxine, who flipped early and handed over key financial records, received 18 months and helped claw back most of the embezzled HOA dues. The charges read like a prosecutor's dream holiday list: mail theft, conspiracy, wire fraud, civil rights violations, organized harassment, plus a dozen more federal counts carrying penalties I never knew existed. Every bogus fine got refunded. $127,000 total returned to families bled dry by the scheme. Mrs. Finley's foreclosure was vacated, and her settlement guaranteed she'd never stress over property taxes again. The old HOA was dissolved and reborn with real safeguards: ironclad limits on surveillance, mandatory financial transparency, resident votes required for any spending over $500. I got elected to the new board as Director of Oversight and Common Sense, a role we invented specifically to prevent any future power grab. Rebecca Martinez called it right: our case became the federal blueprint for tackling HOA corruption. Congressional hearings followed, spawning new nationwide guidelines curbing rogue surveillance powers. Our story triggered similar prosecutions in 4 adjacent states. The financial reckoning felt just as sweet. A class action suit against the HOA's insurer delivered hefty payouts to every harassed family. Delilah's seized real estate holdings funded real community upgrades, not board member enrichment. Mrs. Finley turned her settlement into the Neighborhood Protection Scholarship for kids from immigrant families facing housing bias. The old security enhancement budget now pays for the new playground where children laugh and run without mechanical eyes overhead. But the deepest healing came on the personal front. Sage's friendships mended once parents realized the dangerous dad label was pure criminal propaganda. She launched a privacy rights club at school, now 43 members strong and featured twice in the local paper. My electrical business boomed with referrals from neighbors who'd watched me take down a surveillance empire. Turns out seeing someone dismantle tyranny makes people trust your problem-solving skills. We started an annual drone-free day festival that pulls families from 3 counties. Kids fly kites and play tag while parents swap HOA horror stories
Over barbecue.
I've become an informal advisor for neighborhoods battling similar bullies, teaching folks how to build evidence dossiers and connect with federal prosecutors. Last month, a Los Angeles documentary filmmaker reached out about a nationwide expose on HOA corruption. Our small neighborhood fight apparently uncovered patterns plaguing communities coast to coast.
The change is night and day.
Where drones once stalked children, community garden beds now thrive with neighbors sharing tomatoes. The former HOA office is a little free library. Kids borrow books without fear of unauthorized reading citations. Sage graduated high school with a full-ride scholarship, powered partly by her college essay on resisting institutional abuse and defending civil liberties. She's heading to law school to specialize in constitutional protections, inspired by watching federal agents cuff the people who terrorized our family. 3 weeks ago, a frantic dad in Arizona called about drones harassing his autistic son. 2 days later, an Ohio mother reached out over predatory fines meant to force her eviction. That's when Sage looked at me and said, "Dad, you should start a YouTube channel. Rex's Justice Files or something.
Help other people fight back."
Standing here in this peaceful community center surrounded by families who can finally breathe, I'm thinking she's onto something big. Because the strongest security system isn't cameras spying on your neighbors. It's neighbors who actually care enough to stand up and protect each other.